Hey, how's it going everyone? Carlo here from AYCB, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to play Mercado de Lisboa. This copy of the game was provided to us by the publisher, which is Eagle Gryphon Games. If you've played Lisboa, and you remember the city building part of the game board depicting the intersecting streets of Lisbon, well, the designers here have basically lifted that right out of Lisboa and turned it into its own game here with a market theme and some minor rule changes. So this is a very tactical game where you're going to be opening stands in the center of the market, placing restaurants next to those stands to increase their value, and then bringing in customers to earn you money for your stands. The player with the most money at the end of the game wins. So stick around and let me show you how to play. The main part of the board here is the market, a 5x5 grid for 25 total spaces. This is where players will be opening stands and restaurants. At the start of the game, the board is randomly populated with these face-down circular restaurant tiles. Both sides are pretty much identical, but the gray face-down side just shows that this is not an open restaurant, meaning this is currently an available space. An available space just means any space that's either empty or contains a face-down restaurant tile. So at the start of the game, all 25 spaces are considered available. Surrounding the grid are open spots at both ends of all rows and columns. These are called market entrances. These are the spots where the customer tiles will go. Each player starts with 8 wooden stands of one color, 1 coin, and 3 random stand tiles from the bag. Players also each get a screen to keep their money hidden from other players. The rulebook says it's optional to play with hidden money, but the designers recommend playing with hidden money, and so do we. Determine the starting player and you're ready to go. If you're playing a 4-player game, be sure to give the extra pub tile left over from setup to the last player in turn order. If you're playing with less than 4 players, that pub tile won't be needed. So in Mercado de Lisboa, players take turns in clockwise order around the table, taking one single action on their turn, and you go around clockwise like this until one of the endgame conditions is met. So in this game, the majority of what you're doing is basically trying to bring customers to the market entrances that line up with your matching stands that are going to earn you money. So the 4 possible actions that you can do on your turn are open a stand, bring customers, open a restaurant, or take a coin. And before we get into those one at a time, just note that opening a stand is the only thing in this game that is ever going to cost you money. To open a stand, take one of the 3 stand tiles along with one of your 8 wooden stands in front of you and place it in any available space in the market. Remember, an available space can be either an empty space or a space with a gray face-down restaurant tile. If you place it on top of a face-down restaurant tile, you gain that restaurant tile, which can be placed on a later turn. Just keep the restaurant tile in front of you for now where everyone can see it. The cost to open a stand is 1 coin for each stand of any player color in the row or column, including the stand you're placing. Restaurants do not affect the cost to open stands. So look at both the row and the column in line with the new stand you placed. You must pay the more expensive of the 2 costs. So in this example here, if I place this yellow stand, I would have to pay 3 coins. Even though there are no other stands in this row, there are 2 other stands in this column. So 1 coin per stand means 3 coins. After you open your stand, check to see if there's any customer tiles that match it at the end of the row or column, which might earn you money. We're going to talk about earning money in a second because it also applies to the next possible action you can take, which is to bring customers. After you resolve any potential money earned, the final thing you would do as part of your open a stand action is to take a new stand tile from the main board so that you're back up to 3, and then you refill that empty space on the board with a new stand tile from the bag. Just a quick note that there's also a sneaky way to open a stand before you have the money for it, but we're going to talk about that a bit later. So let's get right into bringing customers. To bring customers, simply take one of the customer tiles from the market and add it to any available market entrance space around the perimeter of the market. To do this, you must meet 2 conditions. First, the number of customers on the tile, ranging from 1 to 4, must be equal to or higher than the number of stands currently in the row or column in line with the customer tile that you placed. For example, this customer tile has 3 customers on it, so with a board set up like this, you could not place this anywhere, as no row or column has 3 stands. You would have to instead take a tile with 2 customers, and then you could place it either here or here where there are 2 stands. The second condition is that at least one of your own stands in the row or column must match at least one of the types of stands depicted on the customer tile. After you place your customer tile, check to see if any players earn money, and then refill the empty space in the market where you took the customer tile from. Alright, quick pause here. So aside from a couple other ways that you can gain 1 coin here and there every once in a while, I've just gone over the two main ways that you're going to get probably at least 95% of your money in this game, and keep in mind that money is your points. So there's two other minor actions to go over, which we'll get to in a moment because they're very, very simple, but now we're going to cover how you actually earn money from those two ways, starting with first opening a stand. After you open a stand in a row or column that already has customer tiles, you'll earn money for customers seeking the items that you have at your stands. For each customer tile in the same row and or column that matches the type of stand you placed, the stand earns its owner coins, which is calculated as follows. First, 1 coin for having a stand that matches the customer tile. Second, you add 1 coin to that for each orthogonally adjacent face-up restaurant tile that matches the stand. Diagonally adjacent restaurants do not count for this. We're going to look at how you open a restaurant shortly, but all you need to know for now is which restaurants match which stands. Sushi bars improve fish stands, tea houses improve flower stands, pizzerias improve tomato stands, burger joints improve meat stands, wine bars improve grape stands, and pubs improve all stands. Again, you add 1 extra coin to the base value for each orthogonally adjacent matching restaurant. Then you take the sum of the coins and you multiply that by the number of customers on the matching tile. This is the total number of coins that stand owner will earn. Make sure you check for customer tiles on all 4 sides of the stand you placed. So in this example, if I place a new tomato stand here, and there is already a customer tile over here with tomatoes, I would score like this. The stand itself is worth 1 coin. It's adjacent to both a pizzeria and a pub, which both improve the value of the stand by 1 each, so that's now 3 coins. Now we'd multiply that by the number of customers on that tile, which is 2, so I would gain 6 coins from opening that stand. Since there are no other customer tiles in line with the stand, that would be it. Earning money from bringing customers works pretty much the same way as when you open a stand, except there are opportunities for even bigger points because you can have more stands out, but the downside is that you might end up earning money for your opponents if they have stands in the same row. When any player places a customer tile, regardless of whose turn it is, every matching stand in the same row or column earns its owner coins, which is calculated in the same way we just went over for when you open a stand. So the owner of each matching stand would gain 1 coin for the stand, plus 1 coin for every adjacent matching restaurant, multiplied by the number of customers on the tile. The third action you can take is to open a restaurant. To do this, you'll need to have a restaurant in your personal supply, and the only way to have one of those is to have previously placed either a stand or a restaurant on top of a face-down restaurant in the market to have gained that tile. To open a restaurant, you simply place it on any available space on the board and gain 1 coin. Keep in mind that restaurants do not belong to any player, so you do not mark them in any way like you do with your stands. The fourth and final action you can take is to simply gain 1 coin. In 3 or 4 player games, if all players take the take 1 coin action consecutively, the game will actually end immediately. In a 2-player game, both players would have to take this action twice in a row for it to end the game. There's 2 other ways the game can end, which would only ever happen at the end of a player's turn when either of the following conditions is met. So if someone places a stand or a restaurant, leaving only 4 available spaces in the market, or if someone places a customer tile, leaving only 4 available entrances to the market. If you forget either of these conditions, refer to this section on the board as a reminder. Once the end of the game is triggered, all players will get 1 more turn, regardless of who is first in turn order. So just a couple more things to go over before we're all done here. At the beginning of your turn, if ever you have 3 identical stand tiles in front of you, you may draw 3 new tiles from the bag and then return your 3 back to the bag. The same applies if there are 3 identical stand tiles in the display when you need to take one. You can first replace the display with 3 new tiles from the bag, then put those 3 back in the bag. So finally, you remember how I mentioned earlier that there's a sneaky way that you can open a stand if you don't have enough money for it at the time? So the way this works is, as long as you're going to gain enough money from the placement of the stand at the end of your action, you can sort of retroactively use that money to pay for the stand. So think of it as if you're doing the net transaction at the end of your turn. So let's say you had 0 coins and you couldn't actually afford the stand, but placing the stand would gain you coins. You can just figure out the difference, and that's how much you will have paid for it. So if you aren't able to pay for it, you of course cannot place it. As far as final endgame scoring, you basically lose 1 point for any leftover unplaced restaurant tiles in front of you. Otherwise, it's just all of your money left behind your screen, and the player with the most money wins. If there's a tie, then the player who placed the most stands in the market wins, and if it's still tied, then players have to share the victory. So that's how you play Mercado de Lisboa. So I'd just like to remind you here that in addition to the 2 ways the game can end that are actually stated in the endgame conditions section of the rulebook here, there's that 3rd way I mentioned, which involves players taking the take 1 coin action consecutively. Otherwise, you should also know that there's a solo mode, which is a series of 9 unique challenges that you play through as a campaign. Each challenge is just 1 or 2 sentences in the rulebook, so it's fairly straightforward, but you're basically just trying to see how many total points you can get by the end of the campaign. As always, if you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, leave a comment below, any support at all helps us out, tell a friend about us. Otherwise, that's it, so muito obrigado e até logo.